my goal with this from the very beginning was to help as many people as I possibly could.
Yeah.
I love helping people.
Yeah.
I believe that you're alive as you can help people, right?
Mhm.
You are as alive as you can help people. So for me, that gives me my life.
Yeah.
It really, really does.
The Vegas Forward podcast delves into the lives of the people in our community, uncovering not only what they do, but who they are. Business may keep our city strong, but it's the individuals that continue to create, innovate, and push Vegas forward. All right. Super excited. My good friend and confidant, Derek Perdue, is here today. Derek Perdue is one of the top personal trainers here in Las Vegas. Thanks for coming on to Vegas Forward podcast. Wanted to kick things off, Derek. Maybe tell us a little bit about what you're currently doing and about your new business.
Sure. Well, Nick, thank you. First of all, for having me on the show. I'm really excited to be here, and it's always a great time with you. So I'm really looking forward to this.
Awesome.
And yeah, as far as, my business, currently I've been training here in Vegas for 6-7 years now. And, it's just been a passion and such a love of mine for so long that it's for me, it's not even work.
Yeah.
It's something that I thoroughly enjoy doing. And I can tell you that I will be involved in this business from, now until the rest of my time.
Yeah.
It's just, it's really, truly like that. It's
That's
my
awesome.
love.
That's the dream right there.
It is.
So where are you from? I want to kind of start off at the very beginning.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about, where you grew up and, what that was like. And do you have any siblings or anything like that as well?
Yeah. So originally I'm from Michigan.
Okay.
So Midwest. And I grew up roughly an hour to an hour and a half-ish outside of Detroit.
Okay.
And I actually grew up in a very, very small town. So just to give you an idea, we had one street light.
Okay.
I graduated with 49 kids.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
In high school?
In high school.
Wow.
Yeah.
I went to a small school and it was like 150, I think.
That's pretty small.
Yeah.
Yeah. But 49 kids.
Okay.
And I grew up in the country. So I was, growing up, I was working in hay fields. So I would cut, rake, and bale hay. I would work with, actually, the town I grew up in is one of the top 10 cities of horse country in the world.
Okay.
So, there were horses everywhere. So I essentially grew up handling and caring for horses, in every way. So
did your family have like a farm or
we
was it a business?
We didn't have a farm,
but
there were farms everywhere around us. So what happened was when I got, strong enough and able enough, a neighbor would say, "Hey, Derek, we need some help over at the farm. Would you mind coming over?" And that's sort of how things happened and then I would gather up some friends and we would go cut, rake, and bale 1,000 bales of hay, and then we would distribute it to, all the farms in the surrounding area.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it just kind of became a thing where that was my life.
Really?
It was furthest from city that you could probably get.
And would you do it for work or just helping out in the community, or what was it?
Well, initially I was getting paid, I think at that time, like $9 an hour or something like that, which was a lot.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was $7. It was so long ago. I think it was $7. And then my friends would get like $5 an hour.
Okay.
And I would that's where I sort of started this sort of leadership role, entrepreneur. Yeah. And I would get them all together and I would be the one sort of driving the tractor and they would be the ones picking up the bales in the fields.
Okay.
I would take the bales to the barns and then we would all get together and we would stack them in the barns for the winter or whatever the case was.
Sure.
So that's kind of how things started. So every season that this would happen, they would call me.
Okay.
I would get my friends together and we would go do the same thing.
Oh, nice.
So it was very, very...
So it was a summer thing. It wasn't all year?
No, it was definitely summer thing. And it was really hard work.
Yeah.
And this is I loved it. It was very, very physical. Bales of hay are 80 pounds.
Oh, yeah.
So, mean, if you're picking up hundreds and hundreds of bales a day, it's a lot of
A
work.
lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
Nice.
That's the city that I grew up in. Very, very small. Everybody knew each other, that type of thing.
What did your parents do out there?
Yeah. So my whole family, including my aunt, uncle, grandmother, mom, dad, they all work for General Motors.
Okay, which is what people do out there, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Growing up in Michigan, or Detroit is, we're known as Motor City.
Sure.
And, we have, at that time, Chrysler and Daimler Chrysler and Ford and General Motors. I mean, that's honestly the general makeup of Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have companies who are making things, sub-companies for those companies.
Yep.
But my parents, they worked for General Motors since they were like 18 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that's what we knew.
Yeah.
So through and through, like American vehicles
since
pretty much the day I was born.
And do you have any siblings, brothers, sisters, or?
Yeah. So younger brother, 2 years younger than I am.
Nice.
And he's quite opposite of me, I would say.
Yeah.
Great guy, amazing family guy to this day. And but he's very different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not in a bad way, but we're just different.
You're on camera. So
Yeah.
We'll make sure he watches this.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. We had one guy talk bad about his wife. So
Really?
Sure,
Yeah. Not my style, but
I know your wife, so she can, she'll rough you up. Probably,
yes, she will. Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you spent, how long in Michigan?
Yeah. So I'm 40 now.
Okay.
And I moved here right when I was 30 years old. Yeah. And the simple fact of me moving here was the weather.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you move solo? Did you come with anyone, or?
At that time, I actually had a girlfriend.
Okay.
And I just, up in one day, I was just sort of, I had businesses running at the time.
Yep.
We can certainly talk about that.
Sure. Yeah.
And I just was like, I've been working in the snow for so long because I own a landscape company, which we can talk about. And I was just kind of over the weather. I really was.
Yeah.
The winters take a toll on you in Michigan. 6 months out of the year, it's really honestly doom and gloom.
Yeah.
And I love the sun.
Yeah.
Like, how do you not wake up here in Vegas with the sun pretty much?
Even the winter we have,
I mean, you still have sun,
yeah.
right? How do you not wake up here and be happy?
Yeah.
And not that I wasn't there, but you can honestly see the tone level of people in Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
It lowers over the period of the winter months.
Oh yeah.
It's really hard on people because when I say there's no sun for 6 months.
Yeah. I grew up in New Jersey. It's not probably quite as,
but still you get it. I mean, you get the weather.
But people would appreciate the spring and summer like crazy.
Oh,
the second it got sunny in New Jersey, I mean, people would be like freaking out. Like,
oh, it's amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
So I moved out here. I asked her if she would want to move with me, and she was totally all about it.
Nice.
So literally in 1 month, I asked my dad and my brother, "Hey, would you guys be open to helping me to move out?
Yeah.
To Vegas? And I'm just going to run my companies from here."
And are they still there?
Yeah. My brother and my dad are still in Michigan.
Okay.
So I don't think my brother will ever move, but I'm trying to kind of convince my dad to get out here. Yeah.
Yeah, I did the same thing. So I moved out, and then, I'm Greek. So like we all stick together, know? So then I think my sister, then my cousin, then my mom.
Oh, everybody was
my
coming
aunt, my step grandfather, my grandparents would move them out here when they're in their 80s.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's amazing.
Yeah. So, but it's nice to be around family, it's important. So going back to, Michigan,
mm-hmm.
So you graduated high school out there.
Yeah.
Did you go to college?
Yeah, so I immediately enrolled into college when I was 17. I graduated when I was 17, so I was kind of the young guy in my class.
Yeah.
Most everybody was
close
pretty
to
much 18.
Or 18, yeah.
Yeah. So I went to college and basically went through 4 years and triple majored. And in order to do that, I was doing summer classes. I was doing anywhere from 18 to 21 credits a semester. So I was like,
what did you major in?
So I actually majored in business. So marketing, logistics, and purchasing.
Okay.
Initially I was going in for like pre-med stuff and I was going along those lines, but, I had I started a landscaping business when I was 15.
Oh, wow.
So
how did you start at 15 Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, funny story. So sort of funny, I guess. My parents were very diligent in the fact of having my brother and I. We had responsibilities.
Yep.
And if we didn't follow through on those responsibilities,
you're in trouble.
Yeah, we were in trouble.
Yeah.
And there was no wavering there. So one of my responsibilities was always to be sort of in our landscape. And the landscape in Michigan is different than here in Vegas.
Yeah.
There is a lot of upkeep. It's just different. We have grass. I mean, our front yard was 5 acres.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's a whole different lifestyle.
Yeah. So 5 acres of grass, I should say. And so I had to mow that. And we had mulch, and I had to weed that. And then if there were plants that died, I had to replace those. That was sort of my hat.
Yep.
And that's where it started. So then my neighbor said, boy, your grass looks really good over there. He was talking to my parents, and would your boy ever be interested in mowing our grass? Yeah. So he asked me, and I said, well, sure. And he says, well, how much? And I said, boy, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
I had no idea.
Yeah. How much will you pay me?
Yeah. So however that agreement was made, it was $50 to mow his grass once a week.
Yeah.
So at that same time, when I was 15, I was actually working at a restaurant. Okay. So here's how this whole thing started for me in business. Essentially, besides the fact of the cutting and the raking of the hill, or I'm sorry, the hay and all that good stuff. So I was working at a restaurant and I was making $4.75 an hour.
Yep.
Right. And I was doing all of the grunt work. And I'm sure a lot of people out there can relate to this. I was doing the dishes and cleaning the toilets and doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
So 2 weeks worth of work. Okay. Hard work, lots of hours, taking out the taxes. I would be lucky to bring home about $120 in 2 weeks worth of full work.
Sure.
Okay. So that's $60 a week.
Yeah.
Working 3-4 days a week.
Yeah.
So I'm mowing this guy's grass, and it takes me a good hour to do that.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking to myself, okay, I just made $50 in about an hour.
Yeah.
Right. And the cost of me doing that was, at that time for gas, I mean,
minimal.
I mean, honestly, if you really figured it out, it was probably $1.50.
Yeah.
It was really essentially my time. Right.
Yep.
And I worked a whole week at the restaurant and I made 60.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
it's a no-brainer.
You know what I mean? The numbers are very simple there.
Yeah.
So then another neighbor said, hey, boy, you're doing a really nice job over there manicuring that lawn. Would you do mine too? So I said, sure. Boy, I'll take, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Two in 1 week, and I just go right up the street.
Yeah. So
that's really where the landscape business started. So I asked my mom because I was using their equipment.
Yeah, sure.
And it wasn't the most ideal equipment, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So I asked my mom for a loan.
Yeah.
And she gave me a $2,000 loan that summer.
Okay.
And I said, Mom, I'll pay you back. So I went out and bought a used, what's called SCAG.
Okay.
Commercial mower.
Yeah.
SCAG. And so that thing increased my efficiency like tenfold.
Okay.
Now I was mowing the guy's grass that initially took me an hour. It took me 30 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Roughly.
Yeah.
And then the other guy. So I was just like, whoa, okay, I need to get some more accounts.
Yeah.
So word of mouth for me back in the day, because we didn't have social media. I mean, none of this.
And it's a small town too. Everyone knows each other. Yeah.
It's exactly how it happened.
Yep.
And I also had my contacts from doing hay work and working with the horses. So I literally got on the phone, not a cell phone, an actual phone.
Yeah.
And called them.
It's like,
it was literally, it was one of those ones where you have to wait. Yeah. You have to wait for it to come back. Yeah. So
I missed that actually.
I do too.
Yeah,
I do too.
Yeah.
And I reached out to them and I ended up, accumulating those accounts as well. So at 15, I couldn't drive. So I had to have my parents drive me. I ended up using my dad's truck.
Yep.
I got this makeshift trailer together, and that's how the company actually started right then and there.
Wow.
So it started from a $50 lawn, and I maintained that all through high school and through college.
Okay.
So the college story was this, is my college was about 5.5 hours drive from where I lived.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a full-time student. So I would drive home every single weekend for 4 years straight. And I worked my landscaping company on the side, if you will.
Yeah.
Or on the weekends.
And it was just you at that time.
Initially, I had a best friend helping me. And then the dynamic changed when I went to college.
Yeah.
So we parted ways. And it just made sense. It worked for him, and it wasn't fair for him to be working all week, and it just made more sense.
Sure.
But yeah, I came home every single weekend for 4 years straight to work that company.
Yeah.
And during the time of college, I was saving every penny I made.
Yeah.
And that's when the Subway thing happened.
And how many accounts did you build it up to before you ventured into that?
I mean, I had hundreds.
Wow.
Hundreds of accounts.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what did you do with that business? Did you maintained it? Because the next thing you mentioned is Subway.
Yeah. I maintained it. The landscaping was my source to be able to fund everything.
Yeah.
And that was my way of funding my first Subway store. So when I was in college, I was like, okay, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
What am I going to school for? And what am I going to do after school?
Sure.
So at the time, Subway was 10 years running the number one franchise in the world. I mean, it was just booming at that time. It was huge.
Yeah.
So I said, well, I'm going to do a Subway. I'm just going to do this. Well, I didn't realize at the time Subway had a list from your ceiling to the floor of people that wanted to get in.
Yeah.
It was huge.
Yeah.
So to make a really long story short, I was in Toronto at one point, and I ran into a guy who literally was a franchisee in Detroit. He just happened to be in Toronto at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just outside of Detroit.
Yep.
I said, hey, we just started talking. It just kind of happened. Call it the universe, call it manifesting, whatever that was.
Sure.
It just literally happened this way. And I said, I've been saving up some money. I want to invest in a Subway. He said, well, I could get you in. We could do it together. I'll put it in my name.
Yeah.
You'll be my partner. And that's what we did. So I started this whole thing when I was a junior in college. By the time I was a senior in college, my first store, I should say, had already been evolving. I started building it right from scratch.
And I think you told me once in the past that you had some struggles where you were in a really bad location or something along those lines, right? That was challenging to.
Well, I had one. Yeah, that was my third store. That was way down the line.
Got it.
Yeah, and I'll tell you about that one because that one's interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, my first store. So basically, when I graduated college, my landscaping business was already flourishing, operating, going, and I had guys working it and all this fun stuff.
Yeah.
So when I got out, I started to operate the Subway store. 6 months in, my partner at that time sent me away to Subway school to be a franchisee. So essentially I was kind of like grandfathered in-ish.
Yeah.
There was a way for me to, because I was his side partner, he sent me away. So that's how I became an actual owner in my store. And then 6 months later, I ended up buying him out.
Oh, cool.
So I owned the store myself.
Yeah.
And I was operating it myself. I mean, I was there, Nick, from morning till night working this store.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I mean, you know how it is with
And that's
business.
how you have to do. Yeah. You gotta get in the trenches.
And I was okay with that because I knew that's how I was brought up.
Yeah.
That's how I built my landscape company.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm coming off of, I was nonstop. I mean, I was full-time school student going home every single weekend. And I never missed one weekend in 4 years to work that company.
Yeah.
So to be at that store from morning to night, it was nothing for me.
Yeah.
I was used to this type of
sacrifice.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
It's funny. There's a pattern between everyone I've interviewed on the podcast where like stuff they've done, like, you're talking about the bales of hay, right?
Yeah.
And all the pain that you went through. And while other people, when you're at college, everyone's partying and you're going home and cutting grass, right? And so it's pretty cool to hear.
It's literally, you just said pretty much the synopsis of everything. That's how it was. I was sacrificing, time with my friends, right? I did. I sacrificed even time with my family.
Yeah.
But I had this urge within me. I had this like nonstop, like I'm going to produce attitude. I'm going to make something happen.
Yeah.
And it was like laser beams, right? I just was going after it.
Yeah.
And, so that's what happened with the first store. And soon after that, I bought my second one. It was already pre-existing.
Okay.
And then, 6 months after that, I went into my third one, and it just kind of evolved. I became a multi-store unit owner, and all the while my landscaping company was still building.
Chugging. Yeah.
Yeah.
How involved were you with the landscaping when you were doing the Subway stuff?
So I was definitely still highly involved. Not in the everyday work stuff.
Yep.
More so in the development of the business. Where were we going? And I was also highly involved in a sales part of the business, as far as, because we started to take on really big accounts. So
commercial type stuff.
Yeah. So like commercial, municipality. And then we actually got in with like General Motors.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So like General Motors is probably, I don't know if there's a bigger account in Michigan that you could get.
Probably not. Yeah.
Yeah. Because the properties were so huge, like massive.
Yeah.
Right. So these were multi-million-dollar contracts just for one General Motors location.
Wow.
And there are multiple locations, right?
Sure.
So on top of the municipalities, so we were taking care of city contracts, big city contracts, along with, we started to get into the Ford and then the General Motors contracts.
Oh, wow.
And we even had talks with Daimler Chrysler at that time. So I was involved in those dealings. So when there was a bid coming up, I would be the one at the bid. I would be the
pitching
one creating the bids. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because these were massive deals. And we're talking about, you have to have enough equipment to handle these types of business. Yeah, because if you
labor,
if you
insurance.
The insurance was massive.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was to the point where, you had to prove your worth in the aspect of, they would actually come to your shop and inspect your equipment and see how much equipment you had.
Oh, wow.
It was to that. Yeah. Because if they grant you the bid, they have to be ensured that you can handle this size of a, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's where we were at. So I would kind of be at the forefront of all that. And then I had supervisors and guys that would kind of handle the operational stuff after that.
Got it. So you had the 3 Subway stores with this simultaneously.
Yep.
And what happened next? Was there a tipping point where you decided to go one way or the other, or?
No, I was chugging along. I was doing a lot of things with Subway. So I became a test store for Subway.
Okay.
Meaning, if they had this product, let's say, or everybody knows about the ovens, right? Okay. So I was, one of the first stores to test those ovens.
Okay.
Right. So I would get, I felt very honored to be able to be in that position, because I could do all of these new things.
Yeah.
And everybody wanted to see, oh, this store has this, but these other stores don't.
Yeah.
So I sort of had an advantage there with that.
Oh, yeah. It attracts new business too.
It does.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, it does. And
were any of them failures? Like, do you remember any stories of stuff they've tested that didn't succeed, or?
Oh, there was a lot.
Yeah.
There was a lot of products that were tested that didn't succeed.
Yeah.
One of the ways that I was able to communicate to Subway, though, with some successes that we had, was what I did is I took surveys. So I would have this little sign that I put out in the middle of my store. And one of my stores was really big. It sat like 72 people. Okay.
Wow.
So it was huge. 2 registers, massive store.
I don't know if I've ever seen a Subway that big.
Most people haven't.
Yeah.
Because it was so close to Comerica Park.
Yeah.
Which had, 80 some baseball games a year.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm literally right next door to Ford Field, which is where the Lions played.
Yep.
Short Lions. So I was literally dead center, right in the middle of all of these people and all of these events that were happening downtown. Everybody walked by my store.
Oh, wow.
So I had to have, it was a very high volume store, so I had to have that sort of set up.
Yeah.
But yeah, what I would do is I would set up a, like a little tripod saying, hey, eat lunch with me for free today and take a survey.
Yeah.
The survey takes 2 minutes and you can eat lunch for free. So I offered people a free 6-inch sandwich, which at that time cost me 67 cents. And they would fill out the survey that I created. And I just wanted to know, where are you coming from? What radio stations do you listen to? Because I would market, advertise on there. Certain information like that. How much do you want to pay? What is a good price for you to pay for lunch? Like what do you want to pay? So I would ask all these questions. And, the people that came into the store, these are the people that gave me the answers. I didn't have to just randomly create ideas. So one of the things that came through was this. And most people that are listening here they're going to know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I said, okay, what is a realistic number for you to come into this store or any store or in general and pay for lunch? And the number that came back was $5. So here's what I did. So I created a button in the POS system so that you could get a 6-inch sandwich, 2 cookies or a bag of chips and a medium drink for $4.95.
Okay.
And here's what happened. Okay. My average check came way down. The average check for a Subway store is usually around $8 or $9. Okay. But here's what happened is my average check price went down in general, but my volume went way up because it's a
we're giving people what they wanted, right?
Yes.
You listen to the customer.
100%. Yeah. So if that person came in twice, okay, and they spent $8, okay, so they're spending $16 in that week.
Yeah.
Okay. It was the idea of them coming in and spending basically $5. We'll just round it up. So they would actually come in 4 times a week now.
Yeah.
Because it was the idea of them just handing over $5. So essentially, and really, there were many points of upsell when we were in there. Okay, there's actually 9 from the point of sale, or from the point of order to the point of sale. So more times than not, they were actually, most of them spending even more money, but their frequency of coming to the store was greater. Well, this information, of course, Subway wanted to know how was I creating record-breaking sales? Yeah. And I was getting awards for this.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So because we would have to transmit our sales every single week. And Subway's like, okay, how are you doing this amount of volume?
Yeah.
What are you doing? So, and I had the freedom to do this. I was a test store.
Yeah.
So I told them exactly what I was doing, of course, right?
Yeah.
And they ended up taking the model that I was doing, okay, and they took this and they started to do this in a regional scale. It blew up and it went from local to regional, and then it ended up going nationwide.
Yep.
And then ultimately worldwide. And now, yes, I did it with a 6-inch, but that ended up turning into the Footlong $5,
which everyone's heard of. Yeah.
Which that's So if anyone was,
do you sing that song ever?
Well, every once in a while when it comes on, I'll sing it under my breath.
Yeah.
And only if I'm alone. But that's how the $5 Footlong started. It literally started from me surveying in that
How cool is that?
Yeah,
That's wild.
I look back at it and I'm like, man, how did I come up with that,
Yeah.
And I always knew that by communicating with my customers, whether it be in landscaping or in the stores, rather than me just thinking about the ideas, I'm just getting the answers from them. Those are the people that are buying from me.
100%. That applies to any business. I mean, your customers have a need or a demand for something, asking them what that is, and then just delivering it, right? It seems simple, but it's not.
It seems simple.
Yeah.
But most people, and I commend them, right? They have these really great ideas.
Yeah.
But sometimes the idea that person has, it's really awesome for them, but it may not be so awesome for the public.
Correct.
Right? Or the public. So, sometimes people get a little caught up in that, and I can understand that.
Yeah.
But for me, I set all of that aside and I just said, what can I give you? What is best for you?
Yeah.
And what makes most sense for you and what makes most sense for me?
Yeah.
And for that day, and it was the $5 footlong. Yeah, we've had other successes like the pizza. Okay,
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever had the pizza.
I don't think I have, no.
The pizza started from our store. There was smoothies. The smoothies were great, but I would say that it wasn't a super success.
Probably because it's a little bit away from the core product, right?
It was, yeah. So there were things that definitely failed, and there were things that you see today in a Subway store that's how they started. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool. I would say that was sort of a claim to fame for me, I guess, in the Subway world.
Yeah.
So
they should give you royalties on that.
Yeah, boy, I wish. Instead, I was giving them 13.5% royalties. So yeah,
that's awesome.
But yeah,
so you had the 3 stores. Did you ever expand past that, or what happened next?
Yeah, so I stuck with the 3 stores. That was for me at the time. I was a guy who had about 80 some employees, full-time employees under me.
Yeah.
And for me, that was a lot because I never had real experience in organizing that big of a company. So I had my landscaping, and then I had my stores, and I was one guy.
Yeah.
So I was handling a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm just being totally transparent right now. I wasn't trained to handle that load.
Yeah.
And more. I mean, forget about having more.
Sure.
Now, I did the absolute best I could. I learned a lot.
Yeah.
But there was a point where I actually had to hire, a management team.
Yeah.
So a separate management team, I actually had them come in to help me organize this because I was going nuts.
Oh
Nick.
my gosh. Yeah. Hiring, terminating, paperwork.
Oh.
Yeah, onboarding, training. I mean, that's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
And when you have 80 to 90 full-time employees, okay, and I had one assistant working for me. I mean, we were working. I mean, 100 hours for me in a week working, that was nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, that was normal.
Yeah.
But it's not normal.
No. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you hit a wall at some point. Right?
Yeah, you can't sustain that. I don't know anybody that can. And I had,
it's not healthy. Yeah.
I had the will of, Simba the lion, but you can only go so long.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So for me, that was amazing because once I brought that team in, it was amazing. I mean, just the effectiveness of them created such efficiency in all of my companies. And that is what essentially brought me or enabled me to come to Vegas. When I was 30, I had all my companies rolling. Everything, management was in, systems were in, organizational boards were in.
So you moved and you still own the Subways and the landscaping?
Yeah, everything was running. Yeah, I mean, it took me that long, right, basically, to build these companies, create the organizational systems that I had, along with all the statistics. We had stats everywhere on how things were going. This is what, I sort of learned through the time.
Sure.
And yeah, it afforded me to be able to come to Vegas and enjoy Vegas and essentially run all my companies from here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So how long were you here in Vegas before you decided to sell the business? Did you sell one before the other, or did you keep them for a while?
Yeah. So I kept them for a few years, and it just got to a point, Nick, for me, the game in those two businesses I felt like I had done everything I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I had sales records that still stand today for Subway. I felt super honored and blessed to be able to do everything that I did in the Subway world.
Yeah.
And same with the landscaping company. I had gotten myself to a point where there were no bigger accounts that I started from a $50 lawn and I went to multi-million-dollar contracts. So
yeah, it's wild.
You know what I mean? So for me, the game was sort of like, there wasn't much more for me to want to really do. I did everything I honestly, truly wanted to do.
Yeah.
So there was a point where I had a guy, actually, yeah, I don't even know how he came about, but he was trying to build his landscape business, and his way of doing that was acquiring businesses. Okay. And he had some funding behind him. I don't know where that came from, and happy for the guy, but he came across the board, and one day I got a call and he said, I want to buy your company.
Okay.
I said, okay, perfect. I said, if the numbers are right and they make sense, absolutely.
Yeah.
And he actually wanted to buy all of my equipment as well.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, this was this was pretty much for me. It couldn't have gotten any better.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times people just want to buy the accounts.
Sure.
They have their own equipment. They'll use their own equipment.
Okay.
So then I would have to take time to sell off the equipment. And I had other offers before that, but it was those offers. And I'd just rather sell everything.
Yeah. Just cleaner.
Just be done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I had a guy come across the board, and we made a deal, and it made total sense. And I was happy. He was happy. That was the end of that. And I was okay with it. I was doing that for 18 years. I mean, think about that.
That's a long time.
Yeah. I mean, it's,
Yeah. At some point it's, it runs its course, right? And you're like, like you said, you've done what you wanted to do.
Yep.
Once you lose the passion, running a business is hard.
Yep.
And especially you being in Vegas and the business in Michigan, logistically is difficult, I'm sure as well.
It was.
So you still had the 3 Subway stores at that time?
Yeah. So then I had that. And then
were you going back every so often to?
Not really, to be honest with you. Yeah. Because anytime somebody wanted, most people won't, rather than going back to Michigan, people were like, hey, I want to come see you in Vegas. Business wise, I didn't really need to go back. I mean, I really had a system in place, and it was just, it was like a machine.
Yeah.
I had all the cogs working in the machine, and it was just going.
Yeah.
So, I obviously had calls every single week,
So the management team, did you pay them like a percentage of profits, or how did you work that out with them? Or were they salary?
We worked them out, because they were a third party. They didn't actually work for me, right?
Got it.
It was a company that I had hired outside. So it was a flat fee based on, what we were doing pretty much every month. We just decided on, okay, we have this many employees. They figured out it would take them this much time and effort. So we just work out a flat fee for them every month.
Got it.
So it was almost just like, we retained them, and then that was it.
Yeah, consultants essentially.
That's pretty much what it was. It was pretty much like a consulting fee, and that's how we handled it. But after I hired them on, this is part of my evolvement, because Nick, I'll be honest with you, I made a lot of mistakes.
Oh yeah,
I really did. And I would never want to paint a picture to somebody like this was just so smooth and easy.
Yeah, no.
Let me tell you, I lost a lot of money.
Yeah.
Sure, I made a lot of money, but I lost a lot of money through mistakes.
Yeah. Yep.
I lost friends, because I was
consumed by it.
I was so consumed. I was so focused.
Yeah.
The road was not straight and narrow.
Yeah.
But I learned so much through this process.
Yeah.
About everything, life, business, how to do business. Ethics.
Yeah.
Moral. There was
managing people, marketing, everything. Yeah.
Everything. And it was just the simple fact of going through it.
Yeah.
Not necessarily reading a book like I did in college. It was the experience of doing things is where I learned everything.
Yeah. And I feel like, from running a couple businesses and starting them from scratch, it's like once you've done it the first time, it just gets easier and easier, because it doesn't matter what the business is.
Yep.
The method in which you run it, right, is the same.
It all applies.
Yeah, it all does.
I agree with you, Nick. I agree. Yeah. And I don't regret anything.
Yeah.
I truly don't.
Yeah.
I take so much away from all of my failures.
Sure.
And of course successes, but I appreciate the failures more. I will just tell you that.
Yeah.
From doing it all.
Yeah.
Because that's where I really learned everything.
Do you have a failure that you can call out that you remember? Something that you did that?
Man, there's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
I think if I could generalize something,
yeah,
something that just kind of comes to mind when you when you ask that question. It is really putting some time and effort into understanding the people that you're working with, the people that are within your organization. I think that knowing the people that are really, really, truly working for you or working with you is massive. Not necessarily a specific mistake, but if you have a bad apple, let's say, just, right, okay, in your organization, it's like cancer.
Oh, yeah.
So really, really understanding people and what their intentions are and all of that. We can go on and on about this subject.
Yeah.
I think that is a massive takeaway.
Yeah.
Right. And I put a lot of time and effort into understanding people.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is everything, right? Customers, employees.
It truly is. Yeah. Because that's right. Even a customer, right? Even somebody that you're essentially going into business with, right?
Yeah.
At this point in my life, okay, so there was a point where I would take any business.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. I'll make it work.
Yeah. Yeah.
I will, right?
Yeah.
No matter the cost,
Headaches,
not necessarily in a financial sense, but more so like how they operate. Like,
Sure.
Now I'm completely opposite.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily interviewing my clients or customers now, but I'm definitely,
the signs.
I'm surveying you.
Yeah, of course.
I'm going to survey you to make sure that if we work together, even though you're paying me, I am going to decide if I'm okay with us working
with the relationship.
Together. Yeah.
That's not an easy thing to do.
No.
Because we made the mistake at Adlava when I first started. It's like, especially when you're in startup mode and you don't have a lot of funding or no funding, you take whatever business you can get, right?
Yeah. I
Pay
understand
the bills,
that.
because you're barely making ends meet. And I think as you evolve and as you learn, you kind of realize that like there's certain customers that actually are a detriment to your business and to your overall mental and physical health, even, that just don't make it worth the time, and it's hard to fire customers. There's actually books, and there's a famous guy in our industry, designer called Chris Do. His name's Chris Do. And he always talks about like when to fire your customer. And it's tough, but it's important because you want to enjoy doing what you do, and you have a bad relationship or, a negative relationship, it really impacts things a lot. So
I'm over here shaking my head up and down because everything you're saying, I 100% agree with.
Yeah.
But I do think that it's 100% also necessary.
Yeah.
For everything, the vitality of just you, right? And not bringing on that stress.
Sure.
But also for your company, right? Whichever company you're in.
Yeah.
I believe that there are energetic makeups that are really appropriate for you, let's say, in your business, right? And if those energies don't align, or
it's a problem.
It is, and I believe that it brings on a lot of other problems.
Sure.
So I think if there was not necessarily a specific mistake, but I think if there was something that I could explain to somebody to really just put their attention on, and really try to understand, it's that fact.
Yeah. No, I love it. It's great advice. I couldn't agree more.
Thank you.
It's very difficult to do it, and because people think about the money.
Yep.
And at some point it's irrelevant,
I agree with you. It's not worth the money sometimes.
No, not at all.
If that makes sense to anybody,
I've been down that road.
Oh, buddy. Yes, I can understand.
So jumping back to this, you being here, and you had the 3 subways. When and how did you exit that?
Yeah. So same thing, the stores were running great. There was an existing franchisee who really wanted these stores for years.
Okay.
And I was never interested in selling them. There was really no reason for me to sell them at that time because I was still involved and I like them, and just, the stars were aligning for them. It wasn't my time to get rid of them.
Sure.
But he was always there. And once I sold the landscape company, I just said, I've done it's the same story with my stores. I've done everything I want to do. And so anyways, this guy, he reached out just like he kind of normally did every so often. And I was ready. I was ready to sell them. The numbers were presented, and the numbers, I could not say no to these.
Yeah.
Okay. He was very generous.
Does Subway get involved in the transaction at all? Or are they kind of like, could you sell to anyone, or did they have to have certain?
Yeah. So there is, I can't just sell it to just anybody.
Okay.
It was very easy for me because he was already an existing franchisee.
Got it.
So becoming a franchisee, you have certain
requirements.
Yeah, you have requirements that you have to, sort of. So it's not like just a random business guy could come by and say, "Hey, I'm gonna give you $7 million cash right now for these. Sign them over to me." It doesn't work like that. He would have to be like pretty much almost certified, if you will, through Subway to purchase them. And then he would have to become a franchisee. This guy was already existing. He already had a track record. Subway, of course, had to approve the sale. And it was very simple and very easy. I'm fortunate for that.
Yeah.
And he took them all.
Wow.
In one shot. And once again,
Perfect.
I didn't really want to do the thing like with the landscaping where I sell off each store in itself. I just kind of wanted to keep them all together.
Yep.
It was so much easier that way. Yes, they were separate entities, but then I had a management company that would look over all of them. So I sold everything. Okay. And then at that point, I, if you will, semi-retired myself.
Yeah.
Okay. But here I am. I'm 30 years old.
Yeah.
And I'm since I can remember, I was always so active in doing anything and everything, whether it be through sports, working in general, business, going to school. I was always doing something. So
how much time did you take off?
Man, at that time, probably 2 years.
Nice.
Roughly.
It gets old, right?
But it got old.
Yeah.
And I was keeping myself busy through training.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was competing. I was doing something I just really love to do, which is training.
And when did you get into training? Like just personally?
Yeah. So about at that 2 year mark, okay, it was maybe a year and a half, 2 years, somewhere in that range. I had a guy that was a friend of mine here in town, and he says, "Hey, you should come be a host at Wet Republic, this pool that over at the MGM here in Las Vegas." And I said, "Well, what's a host?" And you gotta remember, I'm from Michigan, okay? So we don't have these types of things in Michigan.
Sure, yeah.
Right? So he says, "Well, it's fairly simple. You have to be able to talk to people. You have to have good communication skills.
Yeah.
And if you can make connections, you are basically a guy who facilitates people coming into the pool and having fun and this, that, and the other." And I said, "Okay, cool. I grew up with a pool. I like to be outside. I worked in landscaping.
Sure.
So here's my thought, right? But listen, I want to thank him for introducing me to that.
Yeah.
It was really awesome. But I had no idea what I was getting myself into.
Yeah.
Okay. Like zero.
Yeah.
Okay. So keeping in mind that I've never done a drug in my life. I've never had a sip of alcohol.
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't had one either.
And not today at least, right?
Yeah. This is all vodka.
So straight up, right? And I've never honestly been known to be a super promiscuous guy, right?
So you went from 0 to 100, basically.
Pretty much. Yeah. Okay. So if anybody knows the host life, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying
I did it. It's crazy.
You did, yes.
Oh, yeah.
So being at Wet Republic, which is it's a party pool, right?
Oh yeah.
So here I am, essentially selling tables, but I'm facilitating three big things that I've either never done or I'm just, you know what I'm saying?
Not into it.
It's just not my world.
Yeah, yeah.
So here's what happened with that. This is actually how my whole fitness business started right here. And this is why I'm so grateful for him getting me involved in this. Because even though the hosting life was not, it wasn't for me.
Sure.
this is the one thing that actually motivated or catapulted this my fitness company that I have now.
Yeah.
So here's what happened. One of the head honchos, I'll call it, of the pool, okay, who was kind of overseeing the whole thing. He had a fiance, and he asked me all summer long while I was working there to train his fiance. And I just, because at that time I was in shape. I wasn't a trainer. I wasn't known as a trainer. that's not even the business I was doing. I wasn't, he saw, man, you're in really good shape. If you're in that kind of shape, maybe you could
help her.
Right. And she's really looking to do this.
Yeah.
She actually wants to compete. So for, 4, 5, 6 months, he was asking me to help. And I never obliged. I just didn't follow through with it. I just said, hey, I'm just not doing that right now. And I was very honest with him and said, if the time ever comes, I will let you know.
Yeah.
Well, I only did the pool thing for a summer. Okay. After that summer, I was
like, I'm good.
I was good. I was done. Right.
I'm done.
And again, I was thankful, but the opportunity presented itself to train her. And so I did.
Yep.
And here's what happened. She was my only client. Okay. So I spent a lot of effort and a lot of time with her.
Yep.
And completely transformed this girl.
Wow.
Now I want to give her all the glory and all the credit because she put in an immense amount of work and discipline. So Angie, if you're out there and you're listening to this, I appreciate you. I miss you, and you are amazing for kind of creating this whole thing with me. And thank you for the opportunity. But she absolutely just created so many waves with this, and she was very well known, and so was her fiance. And so when this happened, everybody was like, "How did you do this?"
Yeah,
and I was just kind of this guy under the radar. I didn't really need to be known or care to be known. I just,
didn't even have a business at that point, right?
Didn't even have business. Yeah. So then, his best friend had his wife who was wanting to become Miss Nevada. Hey, can you train my wife?
Yeah.
And, one of the things was that, these guys were very aware of the scene and certain people.
Yep.
And kind of the trainer world has this stigma that guys are trying to always hook up with their clients and this, that, and the other.
Sure.
And he said, one of the main reasons why I want to hire you for my wife is because, I've heard that, you're very respectful.
Yeah.
And you did great work.
Yeah.
If you can do the same with my wife, I mean, that would be amazing. And I was already friends with him. So I, of course, was like, yeah, let's do this.
Yeah.
3 months later, she became Miss Nevada.
Oh, wow.
So then there was press, there was media with that whole thing.
Sure.
And then my name started to kind of like evolve.
Did you leverage your contacts from that one summer at Wet Republic? Because I would assume that a lot of the cocktail waitresses, staff, like did you get anything off?
Well, this is where it all came from because they were all working at Wet Republic.
Oh, they worked there. Okay,
yeah.
Got it.
So the one guy was working there, and then next thing you know, so then you had the cocktail servers who were like, hey, oh my gosh, I saw this girl and I saw Miss Nevada and can you help me too? And this is where it all started, and it came on fast.
Now, did you charge those first two people or did you?
I did. Yeah. For me, it's very important is even if we're friends.
Yeah.
That we create an exchange because otherwise the value of what I'm doing for you.
Yeah.
Right. There is no value.
Yeah.
So if you miss a session with me, okay, and you call me 30 minutes before session and you can't make it just because you're just tired or whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and that wouldn't be fair.
Yeah.
So I had to create some value there, between myself and the client. And that made them accountable. And of course, for me, I had a responsibility now because I was taking them under my wing.
Sure.
So yeah, that is where this whole fitness business started. And honestly, like it was just like
what year was that?
Oh, geez. This is a really good question. This was
8 years ago?
Well, let me think here. This was probably, it was like 6, 7 years. It was somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere in I could be a little off. I'd have to honestly look back.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was like a blink of an eye. And the next thing you know, here I am. I'm back in the trenches.
Yeah.
Doing 70 hours a week.
Where would you train people?
So I worked out a deal with a new, it was a new gym at the time called Iron House.
Okay.
And so, I was brand new in this industry. So I wanted to find a space that was super safe, small.
Yeah.
Okay. More intimate, not like an LVAC.
Yeah.
Not like a EOS, because typically
it's overwhelming.
Yeah. It's overwhelming. It's just, and anyways, I worked out a deal with the husband and the wife at the time who owned the gym, who just opened it.
Okay.
It was just perfect. And I wanted a safe space because at that time, 100% of my clientele were all female, and they were all pretty much in the industry. And I just, I wanted to make sure that they felt safe, right?
Sure.
And the gym wasn't busy, so we could do whatever we wanted. We could go we could do 4 exercises in a row and not have to worry about somebody coming in and taking our machines or equipment. And yeah, that's how it started. And it was just, it was meant to be. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
It just was.
That's awesome. So, how did it evolve? Like, obviously you started getting more, clientele and things like that. At what point did you decide, okay, this is a real business? Then you started forming the, LLC or whatnot, building a brand. When did that kind of begin?
After I handled Miss Nevada, okay, that's when I started to have lots of phone calls, a lot.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where it was like, okay, I can't just, take a bunch of cash. I could, but it just wasn't my style. I was so used to actually running a business. So I formed, my corporation at that point, because it was just, now I was working 10 sessions a day.
Wow.
Right. So it's like, this wasn't just a session here or there. It was 10 sessions a day. And like I said, I was working 70 sessions a week.
Wow.
Right. In total.
Yeah.
So I started the corporation at that point, and the business hasn't stopped since.
Yeah.
We've been on an upward trend. It's a little different now because I was doing everything in person at that time.
Sure.
And I am still doing some in person.
Yeah.
But now things have evolved through Instagram and our social medias, because now we have an online presence where we are doing like online stuff where I wasn't before.
Got it.
So
you can scale it more a little bit.
You can scale it. Yeah. And I now have, I have an admin team behind me, helping me with that. Of course, it's not a one-man show like it was when I first started, of course. And I have a team of trainers who help me, and it's, so now it's, I have help, and I'm essentially just like I did with my landscaping, just like I did with my stores. I'm sort of creating the organization, and, but like I said in the beginning,
you're not trying to create this monster, right? Like before,
my goal with this from the very beginning was to help as many people as I possibly could.
Yeah.
I love helping people.
Yeah.
I believe that you're alive as you can help people, right? You are as alive as you can help people. So for me, that gives me my life.
Yeah.
It really, really does. Things are much more involved with the business now, especially on the nutritional end of things. So, it's not just training. There's so much involved now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm living my dream. I'm truly living a passion right now.
No, that's awesome.
Thank you.
So how many customers do you work with currently? Is it, you kind of pared it down a little bit, right? Recently?
Yeah. For me, like per week, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, it depends. In person, I can still, so I've stopped taking clients a long time ago.
Yeah.
The clients that I have, I maintain with them.
I noticed there are a lot of regulars. Yeah.
Yeah. They're very regular. But I'm handling anywhere from, let's say 30, 40 sessions a week now.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And that will probably be decreasing over time just due to my team growing and the online business that we're creating right now is, that's really kind of like the wave for us.
Yeah.
Right now, at least. So, I truly love the in-person. It's not that I'm trying to get away from it, but it is the intention of mine to help, like I said, as many people as I can. And I'm one guy, so I can only see so many people in a week personally.
Yeah.
So I have limited that, but I've increased my amount of, like I said, online presence.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, you're too expensive for me, by the way.
Well,
no, but it's kind of cool. I mean, you got to start somewhere, right? And you probably
yeah.
didn't charge nearly what you're charging now.
I started at $40.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I started at $40 a session.
Yep.
And, even at that time, it's, Nick, it's honestly never been about the money for me ever.
Yeah.
I've made a lot of money and I've lost a lot of money.
Sure.
Money for me is not, I know that's a real driver for people.
Sure.
But it's never been for me because it will always come.
Yeah.
Money will always come for you.
Especially if you enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right? Which is difficult to find for a lot of everyone's searching for that, right? And
yes.
You always seem genuinely happy with what you're doing.
Oh my gosh.
I even make fun of you. I'm saying, what a rough life you have, you know?
The value of my happiness in doing what I'm doing is greater than the value of money. I've already made money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm not, that was a driver at one time. When I was in my teens, in my 20s, I'm like, I'm going to make $1 million, and then when I made $1 million, I increased that to 10. And then when I made that, so it's like money for me is not the driver
of happiness.
It's really not.
Yeah.
It's seeing my people every week.
Yeah.
And I get questions all the time. When people see me, they're like, Derek, how are you like this every day?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Well, I've never seen you unhappy. And I'm not saying I don't go through struggles,
which is not bullshit. Because I mean, I've seen you at the gym, and there's never a time where you're like,
Yeah. I mean, listen, I go through struggles just like any other human,
of course,
does. Okay. But I really do believe.
I think you'd go home and cry.
I think it is in the way that you handle those struggles, right?
Yeah, sure.
And I've been through a lot in my life. I really have. I've been through it.
Yeah.
So I think, I think it's just a matter of how one handles those struggles.
Yeah.
You can do it with just pure agony and apathy, and just, you can tell yourself you want to jump off a bridge. Okay, that's how you're going to handle it.
Yeah.
Or you tell yourself, listen, I'm going through this right now. I need to step up and I need to confront this and handle it.
It's funny. I was just telling my team the other day about, as years have gone on, when there are big highs, I'd get excited. Mm-hmm. When there's lows, I'd get really upset.
Sure.
And now I don't even get excited when there are highs. You kind of like balance in this middle ground.
Yeah.
Because they're going to happen.
Sure.
And you can't control it a lot of times, and it's all about battling through that. And finding a work-life balance is important too. I had that mistake a lot, is focusing too much on work and not enough at home. And really lately I've gotten a little better at it. It's hard,
It is.
Tough.
That's where I was.
Yeah.
I was 10/10 work.
Yeah.
I have found, for me at least, okay, the balance of work is 7/10 work.
Yeah.
And the work is a majority of all of our lives.
Sure.
Okay. But I do believe that one must create a balance in order to have real happiness.
Yeah.
Because if you put all of your water in one cup, meaning just everything is about work.
Yeah.
You're going to be unhappy.
Yeah.
You're outbalanced. There's so many other things in life that you're,
missing out on, or,
I mean, I don't know if you agree or the listeners agree to that, but I think for me, that was one of my biggest lessons that I learned, because I was like all in all the time for work.
Yep.
But I started to notice that once I said, okay, work is now 7/10 of my life, not 10/10.
Yeah.
Man, like things changed.
Yeah.
Like even the efficiency of the business.
Yeah.
Because I actually became more present with the business.
Yeah.
Right? If that makes sense. And I was able to enjoy life.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm doing now. I am enjoying life. And when I am with my clients, I am 100% present every single time, every single minute. And I think if one doesn't create time for themselves, it becomes extremely hard to be present in their workspace all the time.
Oh yeah.
100%.
It's
It's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I started training with Mike Sheedy, who's a good friend of yours.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you know, number one for accountability, right?
Yes.
Even though I don't look like you, I did lose 30 pounds. So, you know, I made an achievement, but, I felt
You're
myself.
doing great, Nick. Yeah.
Okay. Keep telling me that. Yeah. You know, I was so buried in work and so work obsessed and medicating sometimes with booze or whatever on the weekends and like thinking that would relieve stress. And, you know, it created more hardships and more struggles and more anxiety and more stress. And so going to the gym was kind of like a release, you know?
Yes.
Mike's like my shrink too.
Sure.
You know,
Oh, yeah.
I always vent about, you know, everything at work and life and,
Yeah.
and it helps, you know, and I think, you know, you have to break away from that a little bit to be better at what you do. Right. You know, I feel like I'm a better dad, husband, you know, and at work as well, you know, so
100%.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, well, think about it. I mean, you're taking care of yourself when you are training, even if it's for that 1 hour a day.
Yeah.
It is for Nick.
Yep.
And when you are, I'll call it releasing charge, like you're saying to Nick, you know, or I'm sorry, to Mike, yeah, you know, I mean, this is what's happening. This is what's going on. I mean, has there ever been a time when you left the gym and you just didn't feel good? I mean, at least better than when you came in?
Never. I've gone in feeling tired.
Okay.
Gone in hungover.
Yeah. Okay. I have witnessed this, by the way. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. That's why I always give Mike a lot of credit, you know, because this is a Mike Sheedy advertisement now. No. But you know, he'll notice sometimes like, is something going on, you know, and like, you know, sometimes there's a lot of stuff going on in my head, you know, and you know, just kind of discussing that and then also working out at the same time, you leave with like a high, you know, and
Absolutely.
you know, I think it's something that I wish I did earlier in life, you know, is be more active and do things like that because this is positive. Yep. You know, and it's a positive release, you know.
It really is.
So anyways, enough about that.
Yeah.
Let's transition. I want to talk to you a little bit about you know, what obviously coronavirus when it hit the city, it was devastating, right? For a lot of local businesses, you know, the whole strip was shut down. What were things that you did during the shutdown? Were you still training clients? Like, how did you adapt the business during that time?
Yeah. So I know this is an interesting subject for most because this is something that, you know, I know at least in my lifetime and probably yours, we've never experienced anything like this.
No.
You know, this is like,
I don't know what.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
So here's what happened. You know, we obviously have been doing online stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when people were in lockdown, okay, what else are you going to do? So people started to reach out more online.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where our online presence became even larger now.
Sure.
So we handle people all over the world. Okay. It's not just Vegas or the States here. It's everywhere. I mean, we have clients everywhere. So, and I'm fortunate for that, of course. But yeah, that's what happened. So people were like, okay, you know, this is it could have been their life or their business as well. They need to stay fit. You know, they want to stay healthy.
Mentally healthy.
Whether it just be because they're going stir crazy or whether it be because they want to fight this naturally, being healthy, etc. So that's what ended up happening for us. Now, the particular, some may not agree with this right now, but I'm just being honest and transparent here. The particular type of clientele that I have, they are fortunate enough to have their own private home gyms, which are very extensive and very awesome.
Yeah.
So during that time, I did have some select few who they knew that the corona was a real thing, but they weren't going to allow their life to, you know, stop because of it.
Yeah.
So I did continue training certain clients.
Yeah.
Of course, I won't mention any names. So I would just go to them.
Yeah.
Right. And then, like I said, the online thing, it just kind of kept growing because that's what was really going on for most all people.
Yeah.
And there were some other countries that we work with, they were really locked down.
Yeah.
So like forget about, anything else other than like a home workout or home nutrition.
Sure.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we stayed very busy.
Good.
I will tell you, I mean, of course, it was a little bit of a break for us.
Yeah.
Because, I'm used
You're
to
not as busy.
Yeah. I'm going to the gym every day to not going to the gym every day. Right.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, for us, and then what happened is once we came out of that, now we have this times 3 or 4, whatever it was, online presence now.
Yeah.
And everybody wanted to get back in.
Yeah.
Like ASAP.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So
been eating pizza for 2 months. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they were really amped up on that and extremely motivated, just simply, honestly, to get out of the house.
Sure.
Most people, they wanted to see people.
Yeah.
They wanted to see things, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And some not, but most were very like proactive and saying, hey, I need to get healthy again.
Yeah.
And I'm here.
Yeah.
So,
which is awesome. And, sticking on that same topic, one of the things that, and this is my personal opinion.
Sure. Yeah.
That our government has failed us with is the way they've presented coronavirus and as the only answer is the vaccine. And I'm not saying I'm anti-vaccine by any means, but it's become pretty apparent through data and studies that like health and fitness and not being obese and and obviously people can control some pre-existing conditions and things like that. What are your thoughts on that topic? And I know it's still going on, and we're noticing now it's spreading more and more, right? With the new is it Omicron? Sounds like a Transformer, like the next Schwarzenegger movie or something. But
yeah, I believe it's actually there's an island that's named. It has the same name in like Antarctica or something.
Oh,
like
really?
That. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really strange. And
Yeah,
then
I
they
don't know
have like a Corona something island over there. I don't know. Anyways, you can look it up.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that though? I mean, what do you think people, could have done and in general, like could do to, better themselves to prevent anything from happening,
So, my background is in naturopath ways, holistic ways. So my view and take on this is the body, it has miraculous ways of not just healing itself, but also protecting itself.
Sure.
So sometimes what happens though is if we are not giving our bodies the proper nutrition, whether it be through, supplements or food or sunlight or, grounding yourself, lots of different things, you become or can become very vulnerable to things.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter
not just
what it is.
Yeah.
It's anything.
Sure.
Right? This one in particular tends to really sort of target and anybody that has a pre-existing condition, it just tends to sort of possibly really hurt them, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So my view on this is to help educate people on how to make themselves super healthy.
Mitigate the risk, essentially.
Be very preventative.
Yeah.
Knowing that this thing is real, okay?
Yeah.
I think we could agree on that, right?
Sure, 100%.
Right, it's there.
Yep.
But, okay, all right, we get it. But instead of running from it, instead of hiding from it, and instead of, it's almost like, this is what it reminds me of. If you are overweight and you are obese, okay, morbidly obese, and you go take a pill, okay, and this is just my view. I'm just being straight up right now.
Yeah.
Okay. You're not really addressing the problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I do view this the same.
Yeah.
If you are in fear, then I would address your vulnerability or your health. I would address that directly.
Mm-hmm.
Your body is super resilient and it is super strong and it can fight these things.
Oh yeah.
But it does need the correct formula, if you will, with nutrients and minerals and vitamins to be able to fight these things.
Yeah.
So my take on it is to educate people on that.
Yeah.
And help them understand how to actually nutrify their bodies and be super preventative.
Yeah, and I just wish it was talked about more. It's never mentioned in the news, anything you read online.
Mm-hmm.
And there's studies that have been proven that that's something that can help mitigate the risk of death and hospitalization.
Yes.
And I feel like if we just talked about it, right?
Yep.
And again, it's not even a question of vaccine or no vaccine. It's
right.
just
it's not that.
having and this applies to even after, let's say, not want to say after coronavirus, it's never going to leave, but we're just in life in general, right? It's just, and I learned that is just focusing on your health is so important, right?
Huge.
Yeah. And so were there certain things that you recommended people do, supplements they take, anything specific? I know, not officially a doctor, but I always call you Dr. Perdue.
Yeah.
Because you always know.
Yeah. Not to get too specific.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some very specific things that I would take, and a lot of these, they go back to, people are like, well, take vitamin D and take vitamin C, ascorbic acid, and all these things, and all of those are really good.
Yeah.
But there, if I can be honest, there's so much more to this.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go a little bit deeper here.
Yeah.
So we have a gut health problem in this country. Okay.
Yeah.
And if you weren't aware, we are the most unhealthy country on the planet.
Yeah. I believe it.
And Japan.
You ever been to Houston?
Yeah. Okay. There you go. Right. In Japan being the healthiest.
Sure.
And it starts within the gut. So here's what essentially happens. So I could tell somebody, well, go get some camu, which is a form of vitamin C, but it's 3 times better than vitamin C. Go get some vitamin D3 and then get yourself some zinc. And I could give you all this protocol.
Sure.
But actually, before all of that, there is one thing that needs to be addressed, and that's the gut health. So people's guts are super inflamed, and they are inflamed from the foods that we are given, the oils, the wheat, oats, barley, rye, fried foods, burnt ends on meats, nitrates. So there is a list of 13 foods that I eliminate from everybody's diet when they come on board with me.
Yeah.
And that is simply the start of you being able to increase your immunity.
Mm-hmm.
That right there. It's not just telling somebody to take a bunch of vitamins and nutrients and all these things, because the reality is most people's absorption rates are extremely low, right? So you have to kind of start, and this is part of the education. This is what I think needs to be told.
Yeah.
Right. So in order to increase people's immunity, you start with the gut, because you can take all the most expensive supplements in the world, but if your gut is not in a position to absorb those really expensive nutrients, even if they're the most perfect concoction, that you would need, I'm not going to say it's all for nothing, but I'm telling you that it will do very little.
Yeah.
You have to start with healing the gut, removing the 13 bad foods, processed sugars being the one of them as well. And then once that gut is healed, your immunity immediately goes way up.
So you have your clients, friends, family eliminate those 13 foods.
Yep.
And then in addition to that, is there anything else you have them do? Like, is there a detox type thing or?
Yeah. So along with removing those foods, that's essentially the start of the detox. And then, yes, I would implement a gut health detox protocol for them, for most everybody. And that involves very specific types of foods. And that also involves very specific type of supplement regimen as well. And it is simply to just remove everything out of the body.
Yeah.
And then after that, we go in and we completely nutrify the whole system.
Got it.
And when you do that, I mean, it's not just a physical effect. Like, yes, you will notice a physical change, like in the mirror, if you will.
Yeah.
And it's usually for the better, of course.
Yeah.
But it's much, much more than that. The inside of your body is now like at optimal. And when you have that, I mean,
It's like a new oil change.
It is. It is.
Yeah,
I mean, it really is. But
Yeah.
you are protecting yourself. You're being very preventative, not just against corona
Sure.
or anything variant of that.
Sure.
It is. It's almost all other disease. Not all disease, but
Yeah.
most all disease can be prevented
Yeah.
by just nutrifying the body. That's essentially what happens with us. Is we start to lose these nutrients through age.
Yeah.
Okay. And we don't get them through our foods anymore, just so you guys know, right?
Yeah.
It's our soils are so overworked.
Yeah.
And there's just, there's no minerals in the soil anymore. So unless you're supplementing with those, you will have ailments that happen. You will have disease, these things that come about that we are so wondering about all the time. It's literally from us missing out on nutrients.
And a lot of it, you mentioned like I had that little rash on my shin, random, right?
Yes.
And go to a regular doctor. They're like, oh, use this, and nothing worked. And I remember you were like, it's in your gut, right?
Yes.
It's like a lot of your skin issues are from the gut. And I think you had me on like a bone broth.
Yeah.
It was good. Yeah. And it cleared up.
It cleared up. Yeah.
So I started calling you doctor.
So think about that for a second. So the Western side of things, and I'm not putting anybody's feet to the fire by any means on this. I'm simply, there is a need and a requirement for Western side of medicine.
100%.
However, in that specific case, okay, when it comes to skin issues, if you put a topical lotion or something like that on your skin, okay, it may relieve your symptoms, okay, right? Whether it's itchy or it's flaky or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
Okay, it's going to relieve those symptoms. But I can tell you that the problem will never be solved by that cream or lotion. The problem is actually within your gut. Once you heal the gut, the actual skin symptoms now go away because the skin problem that you're seeing is basically the fruition of the problem of the gut.
Coming out.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Interesting.
So that is sort of my take on things when it comes to that, because I like to really just address the problem rather than the symptoms of things. And that goes for anything. Yeah. To be honest with you.
Yeah, and I see you spend a lot of time with your clients too. Like you educate them on these things, correct? And when a new consult comes to you, are these normal things you go through, the normal process?
Yeah, I really love that question because I do take a lot of pride in not just telling people what to do. That's not, I don't view that as my job there.
Yeah.
My actual core work for them is to help literally educate them on what they're doing, why they're doing it, how to do it, and then answer any and all questions in between that.
Yeah.
Because I don't expect somebody to stay with me from now until the end of time, although I would love that. I love my clients and I truly delve myself into this.
Yeah.
But I would much more prefer to arm them, if you will, with a bunch of tools.
Sure.
Right. And that way they can use these from now until the end of time.
Yeah.
And they can also help their friends. They can help their family.
Yep.
Son, daughter, whoever.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. It's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
So kind of a couple of last things I want to wrap up with. We got New Year's Eve coming up, or New Year's, right? And everyone's got their resolutions coming in. I know guys like you hate that, right? Because you're like, hey, why not start today and not wait till then? But while we're on the topic and everyone's wondering, like, what are some things that people can do or think about or changes they should make for New Year's? Do you have any guide for us New Year's resolutioners?
Well, this is something that's talked about every year, right?
Yeah.
And I think that so I have a thought here. So stick with me here, okay?
Okay.
So rather than rushing forward in a panic to set resolutions or a list of goals, that, you can start on New Year's Day, forget all that and enter the new year in a mode of being absolutely just present.
Yeah.
Okay. And absolutely positive about how great it's going to be. And I really believe that if you do this and endeavor to maintain this approach, you'll end up doing everything you're supposed to do and when it's supposed to be done, right? I just think that if I were to recommend, I would stop the I must thought mill turning over all the things that you should have done this year that you'll definitely do next year now.
Yeah, that's a common.
Right? It happens,
yeah.
right? So enter this new year with zero pressure on your back to do anything other than remain open to the possibility of your potential. Also receptive to change and ready to show compassion to yourself for your shortcomings.
Mm-hmm.
And I think out of the state of being, it will arise all the doing and achievements that you never planned for, but will be amazed to see unfold. So the reality is that there's no point in setting the same resolutions you've been setting for years on end, only to feel disappointed and down on yourself. So I think this cycle perpetuates feelings of failure. Sometimes you feel inadequate.
Sure.
Which is it's just negative, and certainly it's not conducive to achieving your goals.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So I think if one could consider for a moment maybe why you haven't shifted that weight, changed that job, built that shed in the garden, or watched your son play football more often, I think that there's a thought there, right?
Yeah.
So I hope that makes sense. And I think that one should just do what the heart is yearning for.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. Love it. That's
right?
true.
Zero pressure.
Yeah, it's true.
Just put zero pressure on yourself.
Yeah, because it's hard because you naturally like say, okay, I set these goals and you hit them, didn't hit them, or there's, you have good runs and then bad runs, Yep. Not everyone's as consistent as you are, right? Because you've been doing it for a long time and it's a passion of yours and all that stuff. I'm the king of inconsistency at the gym. I'm actually more consistent at the gym than I am with like diet and, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's difficult, right? Because, me personally, I've got 2 kids, right?
Yep. Yeah, you're very busy. You got a business
too. Yeah.
Yep.
And so it's
wife.
Like,
yep.
Wife.
Yep.
She's not any stress for me though. None. I'm just kidding.
Did I sense some sarcasm there?
But yeah, I think, I think that's something that a lot of people are looking towards, right? Is the new year, new me type thing. And,
yep.
I've learned that it's, starting today is the way to go. Right.
Yep.
Cool. So, but anyway,
I love that.
Do you set your own New Year's resolutions?
No, I love that. I want to expand on that. I think spring, I say springboard into this next new year, 2022 is going to be amazing. And just let your positive energy synchronize with the earth. I'm all about grounding myself, to the earth. I'm really about that. And I think it does give me, and I think it would give others clarity to move forward and be comfortable and contented with just who you are. I really believe that. Let go of the expectations of others. And for once, let your intuition take the lead in guiding you through this next year, honestly. And I can almost guarantee you, because I've done this, that you will attract an abundance of positive opportunity into your life, no matter what it is. So I just think that, of course, I think there's always room for improvement. And yes, goal setting can be a positive activity, but move forward with what the heart is telling you to do. Just listen to it.
Yeah.
I really believe that. Because there are a lot of goals that are set and never achieved. And then it creates this thing where you're just doing it next year and it just becomes this thing. You've noticed this, I'm sure, with others, right?
Yeah.
It just happens that way. And I say not set yourself up for that.
Yeah.
Right?
So do you set yourself up any resolutions? Do you ever have any like goals or anything that you want to achieve either personally, professionally, anything like that? Or
I think I have thoughts on what I'm going to do next year.
Yeah.
Like I'm just going to do these things, right? Yeah. I do have things that I set forth.
Sure.
And I say to myself, okay, like this is a big goal for me.
Yep.
And I'm just going to make it happen. I'm not going to say, well, this is where it's going to be at this time. I don't put that sort of time limit on it.
Yeah.
I think as long as I'm doing everything that I can do to get to that goal, things are going to happen as they should happen.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, I think there should be some expectations and this, that, and the other, but again, I'm not setting myself up for any failures.
Yeah.
I know I'm going to reach that goal.
Yeah.
And whatever it takes to get there, then so be it.
And do you limit yourself to goals? Like, do you say, okay, I'm really want to focus on these 3 things, or did you not think that way? Is it more?
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
I have lots of dynamics in life for my personal self and the groups that I'm involved with, or my business. So I have multiple things that I'm working on at multiple times.
Yeah.
Right. So and I think the overall intention for me is to constantly evolve, no matter what it is, and be better in anything that I'm doing.
Yeah.
Than I was yesterday or the year before.
Yeah.
That for me is really important. I don't ever want to be stagnant.
Yeah.
Yes, sometimes we do go backwards. We all do. We all have, and I get that.
Yeah.
But I think the overall intention is to constantly and consistently move forward.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it's a great way to end the podcast.
Yeah. Thank you.
I appreciate you coming down, man.
Of course.
Really super interesting. So where can people find you, learn more about you and your business?
Yeah. So, thank you so much again for having me, Nick.
Yeah.
You're always a pleasure, and it's so fun to talk with you.
Yeah.
So this is just easy, right? It just flows. We just talk.
We do this like every day almost. So.
But people can find me, typically I'm on Instagram. So my name, Derek Perdue, DerekPerdue, and then the number 8.
Okay.
And yeah, that's, everything is on there. So my website is on there. So you can go to derekperdue.com as well.
Awesome.
And yeah, I just appreciate, you for having me here. And thank you to all the listeners. I hope you guys enjoyed the show today.
Work on your gut health, everyone.
Gut health. Yes, for sure.
Thanks, Derek, man.
Thank
Appreciate
you
it, buddy.
Thank you.